I am Linda Deir, and I have a very special guest tonight, you
I
guys.
heard we had a special guest
You're
tonight.
going to love this. Okay, so Ray's getting everything set up. On Facebook, we're going to stream this live. And if you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to leave your comments or questions in the feed. Ray, it's going to be one of those things where we have to get back to you after we're done with this tonight because we're going to be occupied with performing on this event. All right. So just leave your questions there or comments, and we'll get back to you after we get to the end of the event. Okay. So after a lifetime of being guided, I help you connect. Join me every Wednesday right here on my Facebook page at 6 p.m. Pacific time at Linda Deir Author, so you no longer miss the guidance that's always coming through. Turning to others for advice will give you opinions. Turning to your spirit guides and angels will give you solutions. Here, you will learn about your connections in the spirit world, where you came from, why you came here, and what's next. Tonight, we have a very special guest, Ray Hawley. Okay, now you come over here. You can't hide anymore, Ray.
I'm very rarely in front of this camera.
I know, but this is his, your debut,
This is where I get my SAG card, my actor's card, I think, on this reel that we're going to send to him.
Okay, so this is my guest tonight, you guys. I'm picking on Ray. You know what I'm doing? I'm making him take the journey. You're going to love this.
This is
okay?
going to be good.
Yeah. So Ray will share 2 stories where he was connected and risked being disconnected. You will see how your life does not need to be a struggle when you trust your guidance and stay connected. So, Ray, what do we have here?
Well, when you asked me to pick out a couple of examples from my life, I didn't really know where to start, but I found 2 that I thought would be interesting, and it just happens to be, both of them are job related.
Okay, that's good. That a lot of us, relationships, jobs, money, stuff like that. So, Ray,
Jobs have been very important to me ever since I was 9 years old.
I
had
know.
my first job when I was 9.
Okay, so we're going to let you get started. We're going to start in the right order. These 2 things happen to be connected, and I'm going to bring the chapter out. It has to do with chapter 7. We always showed you new things. This is Ray's guides, always showing him new things. But what good is it if you're not connected? Okay, and you can't act on it. You're afraid all the time. Okay, so let's hear what Ray has to say.
And what good is it if you don't write it down? That was one of the major things that I discovered by
doing this.
Right. To me, when I go back through my life and I look at my jobs, they're just random jobs. You worked at this one for a while, and you did something else, and then you did something else. But going through this process and writing it down, and writing down the feelings and what you realized and
what
happened and what action you took
and the advice you got.
Right. Once you start,
you're going to love this, you guys.
It's all connected,
and you're going to see how in your own life how the similar things in your own life have happened, and what decision you made, one way or the other. Were you connected or were you disconnected? From what point of view did you make that decision?
Right.
Okay, because you have to make a decision even when you don't make one. You made one. Not making a decision is a decision not to make it. Okay, so Ray, please go ahead.
Let's go all the way back to 1981.
Oh my goodness.
I hope everybody out there remembers 1981.
Go ahead.
Okay. My first example started in 1981. I was living in Toledo, Ohio, where I was born and raised, lived there for 30 years, one spot. I had a good job. I liked the job. I was managing an executive search firm in Toledo. And I was a musician most of my life, so I had a lot of musician friends that I played regular gigs with, and everything was going along just fine. Everything was predictable and also comfortable. The only thing I really didn't like about there was the weather. Okay? Tough weather. Then one day, out of the clear blue sky, I get a phone call. And I wasn't looking for a new job. I was pretty happy. But I got an offer to go work for the same company managing their San Diego office instead of managing the Toledo office. So that decision didn't take too long in my mind. I mean, that was kind of a no-brainer. California, best weather. So my world suddenly took a turn for the better. I was really excited. Now, all I had to do was tell my family about my good fortune. Unfortunately, they didn't see it like that. Nobody was happy for me. Nobody. Everybody laid a guilt trip on me to discourage me from leaving Toledo.
Okay, so this was a perfect opportunity for Ray to cave in, to go on guilt instead of that feeling he had. Okay, and he's going to talk about that.
All right, nobody in...
A crossroads.
Yeah, I come from a large family. Not only 2 kids in my family, but my mother's side of the family had 9 kids, and I had lots of cousins and aunts and uncles and everybody, one of those big family things. And nobody in the family, on any side, had ever moved farther away, more than an hour away from Toledo for a job or to go to school,
right,
or anything like that.
Right.
So you were expected to be back for Sunday dinners and all the religious and non-religious holiday celebrations, baby christening, graduations, people's 25 and 50-year anniversary. I mean, everybody was expected to attend all these types of celebrations. Now, on top of this, in their efforts to discourage me from leaving, they all had an opinion about California. Well, that was the land of glitz and decadence. I tried to remember their words.
Their exact words. Is this good?
This
is what happens. This is what happens when you write it down. Ray never really thought about this stuff before. He wrote it down. Okay, now he can really see it. Go ahead, Ray.
All right. So everybody had an opinion. Nobody wanted me to go. They said it was the land of glitz and decadence, drugs, fruits and nuts, and I'd lose my way. You'd lose your way, and probably get a divorce.
Okay.
All right. That was they knew all about what was going to happen before I even got there. The worst thing that could happen is nobody in the family had ever gotten divorced or moved to the other side of the country.
That moved out of their territory. Okay, so continue.
Okay. All I could think about was the warm weather year-round. That was pretty good. The ocean, the beaches, the beautiful people, and that my cars wouldn't rust out anymore. Even my wife at the time, even though she had family in San Diego, she was against it.
She was against it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So everyone is against him.
Everyone.
You know what that feels like. You feel, you go ahead, Ray. I'm going to just let him finish this because they need to hear this.
Taking into account that I didn't know anybody in San Diego.
Yeah.
I'd only visited California maybe a couple times, San Francisco and San Diego once. I didn't know what lied ahead. It still felt like the right thing I should do.
There you go. See, the feeling, when you have the feeling and everything else is against you, everybody is against you, but you feel the urge to move that way, that is guidance. Keep going, Ray.
All right, so it was my gut feeling. Guys like to call it their gut instinct. So what action did I take against everybody's advice and wishes? I took the job and moved to California. And, you can imagine how that went over. What I realized once I got there.
Right. It's not until you get out of the situation do you see what's going on. Okay.
Right.
But you have to move that way. If you stay stuck, you'll never know.
All right. So I'm in San Diego. What I realized once I got there was I loved it. I really loved it. It was great weather. The beauty provided a wonderful feeling to me that I never had experienced in Toledo. It was a whole new world. I went Christmas shopping in my shorts and flip-flops. I thought that was pretty amazing. Okay, after everything played out, upon review, looking back and writing all this down, here's what I realized from it.
And you'd never realize these things unless you write them down.
Right.
Okay?
A long time before I made that move, when I was 30 years old, when I was in junior high, I played in a surf band. And, you know, I remember having fantasies about living in California. Someday.
That was his first guidance that he connected with, that informed him that this is where his destiny lied, is to make that move. All right.
It was about 7th grade.
And it felt good.
It felt good.
See, when you're moving in a certain direction, if it doesn't feel good, you guys, you're going the wrong way. All right? Go ahead.
All right. So I played in a surf band and had these California fantasies. I also had a feeling at the time my wife was having an affair. And she didn't want to move to San Diego. So could that, I'm thinking now, could that have been the real reason that she didn't want to leave Toledo?
Okay. He didn't even realize this until he wrote it.
Right.
Now, how long ago was that? 37 years ago.
Yeah.
He didn't even realize it until he wrote this down. Keep going, Ray.
Okay.
The fog is beginning to lift.
Oh, yeah, yeah. She didn't want to leave Toledo. The family didn't want us to leave Toledo. She didn't want to leave Toledo. Came up with all these excuses. And her major excuse was we can't afford to move. It'd be expensive to move across country. However, 2 years before I got this job offer that came out of the blue, I had started a secret savings account. 2 years before I got the job offer, I put away over $10,000, which facilitated the move and checkmated her objection that we couldn't afford to move.
How about that? See that? See how everything lines up? He had the feeling to start saving that money.
I didn't know why at the time.
You had no reason. You didn't spend it on.
I remember that day. I was walking through the mall at lunch, on my lunch, walking through the mall, and I was walking past this bank that had, I guess, just opened up in the mall, like a little branch. And I said, "Man, maybe I should go in there." And I had checking and savings accounts at other banks, you know. I said, "Oh, let me go in there and open up a savings account. It'll be convenient because I walk by over here every day at lunch." So I did. 2 years later, I had over $10,000 in it.
2 years later, you realized why you did it.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I did. I realized
you had what it took to make the move.
And
He followed his gut. He's connected. He didn't miss it. Had he missed that one thing, if he said, we already have a checking account, I don't need, that doesn't make sense. He starts to reason his way out of it, out of this guidance that came through, that moment where there it is. How I got the feeling to do it, the feeling. He didn't think about, when you woke up that day, did you think about going and doing that?
No.
Okay. That's guidance. That's how it works. That's when you know you're connected, okay? Being connected and getting the guidance is one thing, but where the disconnection could have happened is if he kept walking past the bank and said,
Right.
And he didn't do that, okay? So he's connected, you guys.
So what makes me do that? Turn this way instead of go straight.
Right. I know.
Yeah. I didn't foresee the future.
Right, you just went with your feeling.
To be nice, maybe I should open up a savings account.
Maybe,
right.
Definitely.
So what? So we moved to California, all green lights.
Yeah,
ahead.
True.
All right.
With all the objections, he had all green lights. Okay.
Yeah. What was it? Want to talk about their objections again? You're probably going to get a divorce. You're going to lose your way. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Can't afford to move.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's where the family predictions come true. Within the first 6 months, I got a divorce, just like they predicted. However, that was a good thing. I checked that one off. That's good. Another good one, the burden of family tradition had been lifted off of me.
Wow, Ray.
I mean, I didn't like to spend every weekend going to this relatives or that relatives or having dinner or,
Where you have to do things.
buy presents for somebody because it's their,
Because you
they
have to do
graduated
it.
from pre-K.
So he was always in a have-to-do situation.
Right.
Okay.
Obligations.
Obligations. Okay.
Family obligation, family tradition.
Just the same routine all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Job lasted less than a year.
Ooh. So it was a stepping stone to get you to move you through that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah, the only purpose the job served was to get me out of Toledo.
It was. It was.
The job lasted less than a year.
Yeah.
Within a few months after I lost the job there, a much better job just showed up and found me one day.
So you didn't look for that one either.
I was standing.
When you're not chasing something, this is another one of those things. If you're not chasing something and it comes to you, watch it. That's guidance.
People say, oh, I just bumped into it. I literally bumped into it.
Did you?
I was going to meet the girl that I was dating at the time, went to this popular bar on a Friday afternoon where everybody hung out and chatted, and shoulder to shoulder people. I had a drink, and I literally bumped into a girl, and we almost spilled our drinks on each other. And we started talking, and she says, hey, I work for this company out here in La Jolla, and we're looking for somebody who can come in and do this. I said, I could do that. She said, well, you ought to come out and interview for the job. I went out and I interviewed, and I got it. Bumped into it. Out of all the people in there, probably 200 people.
Wow, Ray. See how it happens, you guys?
Yep. And I worked at that job for 5 years. It was a great job.
It's all about, oh, man. Keep going, Ray.
Well, that's about it there.
Okay.
That's that took me through 5 years. Okay. That took me from 83 to 88.
88, okay.
I moved to San Diego halfway through 81.
Right.
So, and in between, in between, when I lost the job, when it didn't last, less than a year, I had a taste of working for myself. I'd never worked for myself.
Oh, so how long did you work for yourself?
Probably 3 months.
Just to feel it out.
3-4 months.
Yeah. And so, what did you learn from doing that?
Well, I felt I had to do that because I was paying rent, and things like that, and I had to have some kind of income coming in. I did have a lot of expenses moving, but it helped me to understand that maybe I could work for myself someday. So
that seed was planted.
Yeah, and I did it for about 4 months, and I did okay. And then I bumped into this girl at the bar.
And yeah, that just seemed like the right way to go, and it was. Okay.
It was 5 years.
Yeah,
I went there for 5 years.
Yeah. And there's a lot that happened there, Ray.
In those 5 years.
That you didn't realize that would be a handicap for you moving forward.
How so?
Where it would benefit you going forward. People you would meet, contacts that you make.
Yeah.
Different.
That kind of segues into the job. So for 5 years,
yeah,
I was in that job. Good company out of New York City, consulting firm, and I developed a Rolodex. Who out there remembers Rolodex? That's a high-tech gadget that looked like a big wheel that you had recipe cards in.
Low-tech gadget.
Yeah, and then the bigger your Rolodex was on your desk, the more important you were. Some people had a little one, some people had a great big one. It was like pre-computer days.
Okay.
All right, so
fast forward.
Fast forward, we're now during that time period of 83 to 85, the 5 years I'm working at that job, I developed, it was a computer consulting firm, sales and marketing consulting firm, dealt with sales and companies, hardware and software companies, and helped them market their stuff. Okay? I developed a huge Rolodex of high-level contacts, VPs, directors, presidents, CEOs, in over 200 high-tech firms. My own personal Rolodex. And I had clients that I had all of them as clients as a result of that job that found me in San Diego.
Right.
That I bumped into.
Right, exactly. All these things found Ray. Ray didn't go chasing it. If you're chasing it, you're forcing it. It's like you might get the job, but it won't be the same thing as when it found you. when it was in the flow, when it's the law of attraction.
It's the law of
It
attraction.
finds you. You don't have to find it. You just have to be vibrating at the right pace.
Right. I was going to say, you're putting out some level of energy
Yeah,
that attracts those things to you.
absolutely.
A phone call, a new job. You bump into a stranger,
I know.
almost spill your drink on them.
Right.
Okay. As a result of those connections that I made working in San Diego at that company,
Connections, you guys.
connections, it led me to a job offer from my number one client in Chicago. I was there visiting them one day, and they were my top client, and they offered me a job. Another job found me. I wasn't looking for a job.
See, there you go again.
So I moved back to the cold weather,
Yeah,
what I tried to get out of for 30 years.
yeah.
I moved to Chicago in 1988, and my wife at the time, my second wife, had never lived in the cold weather, so you can imagine how that worked out. I had a child, had a baby.
Well, that's what motivated you to make that move too.
Right.
They paid more money.
It was good money.
Substantial. Right.
Right.
It also turned out to be the job he loved the most.
Right.
The Zenith job. Okay, go ahead, Ray.
Zenith Data Systems.
Yeah.
All right. I continued to amass industry contacts for 3 years in new high-tech areas because they had different types of clients. And, it was real interesting, and I got to the point where I had so many clients I had to pass them off to people who then worked for me, and I just
Wow.
handled like the top 20.
Right.
And that's when I got the offer. Okay, so the company that I went to work for in Chicago, after 3 years, was sold to a foreign company, and immediately I knew when they say, well, we sold the company and nothing's going to change, that means everything's going to change. And I immediately grabbed my resume and started polishing it. So I started looking for another job. Once again, I was out.
Okay, now he's disconnected. What he's
Right.
doing is he's looking for a job. He's chasing it. Okay.
Right. Chasing it.
He's
everywhere
chasing
I can
it.
find out.
Right.
You
Okay.
know, I'm desperate
so
now.
He's moving. Right. Desperate.
I don't want
And
to work
plus,
for the French.
he's got a wife and a young baby.
Right.
Okay. He's like it's got his attention. So he's doing things that he's not. He's not trusting his universe. He's not trusting that guidance is there looking out for him. All right. And that everything is happening like it should. Go ahead, Ray.
So while the company was in the process of being sold, everybody was distracted, senior management, and I was out interviewing. I got 2 offers that I sought out on my own. One was in California, one was in Boston. And they were both good offers. And
While he's in the midst of all this.
I'm trying to decide, do we want to go to Boston where it's cold? Do we want to go to California, back to California where it's warm, the Bay Area? But they're very expensive,
Yeah.
Things like that. There's all kinds of things to, mull over. And wouldn't you know it,
While he's in this dilemma, he's kind of he's not sold on one really well in terms of location and cost, or the other really well. It just doesn't feel. He's not getting that feeling,
it's kind of tormenting.
Yeah.
Trying to decide, well, do you want to rip up your family and move them again from California to Chicago to Boston, or whatever?
Yeah.
And wouldn't you know it, in the midst of me trying to decide which job to take, I get an unlikely phone call from Michael Dell.
And Michael Dell didn't even know Ray was looking for a job.
Right.
He had no idea. And Michael Dell called him personally.
See, Michael was 23 years old at the time and in a new industry. And Zenith in Chicago was the largest PC manufacturer in the world at that time.
Isn't that interesting?
So in the midst of all that, I get a phone call one day out of the blue, and he says, "Hey, Ray," you remember the words, "how would you like to come to Austin and do what you're doing in Chicago for more money where it's nice and warm?" That was his entire sales pitch. So, okay, let's more money, check. Warm weather, check. Cost of living, half.
Right.
More money, less cost. So guess what happened? It was like deja vu all over again. From moving from Toledo, freezing cold, to San Diego, best weather in the world, to freezing cold weather in Chicago.
That's right.
Comes out of the blue. I get a phone call.
Isn't that interesting when you really write it down what you discover? Keep going, Ray.
Yeah. So it was just like moving from Toledo to San Diego, doing the same job. I did the same job in Toledo that I did when I moved to San Diego. I did the same job in Austin that I was doing in Chicago.
That is
Same
deja vu.
Same title, same, only bigger responsibility.
You know what's interesting, Ray, about this too? Moving to Austin, you moved to the live music capital of the world.
Check. I forgot to put that one on there. Check.
That's right.
And I still have a lot of great friends that are musicians.
Yes,
Austin.
I know you do. I know. See, Ray was a professional musician for 15 years of his life when he was real young. So that just fit like a glove, okay?
Most of them can't picture me with bell bottoms and big hair.
Ray, you still look pretty straight.
Yeah.
Sorry, you did. He thinks he looked like some musician, but he didn't. He looked really straight. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So it was just like the move from Toledo to San Diego, doing the same job. I didn't look for it. It found me.
Right.
And it felt right. Everything, boom, boom, boom.
Okay, and this really works out interesting. Listen to this.
Off we go to Austin, Texas, and it's another great new adventure in the warm weather.
Yeah.
All right, so just like the job I took in San Diego, this job turned out to be a stepping stone for my real calling, which I didn't know at the time. I didn't know I would only be there 18 months.
At Dell?
At Dell.
Okay.
It lasted a year and a half. The company went through, they downsized the marketing department, and I was out of a job for the first time in my life. Ever since I was 9 years old, I was out of a job.
Yeah.
So.
And he had at that point he had a
4-year-old.
A 4-year-old.
3-year-old.
Right. So the pressure's on, right? Okay, go ahead.
Right, I was out of a job.
So he feels that pressure again, right? The first time he felt that pressure, should I go to Boston? Should I go to San Francisco? And then he gets this call from Michael Dell. Okay. What's interesting, it's one coast, West Coast, to the far East Coast, and he winds up in the middle.
Right.
In Austin, Texas. That's interesting.
Right.
Okay.
And I'd never been to Austin before. I had no idea.
That's great, Ray.
It was great. I went down there and interviewed. It was
He still
wonderful.
loves Austin.
I love Austin.
Yeah.
I miss real Mexican food. Okay. So I was out of a job. And I reluctantly, here we go again, same pattern. I reluctantly went out and started interviewing for similar jobs.
Okay.
And I received 2 offers again. One in California and the other on the East Coast.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. So there he is, split in 2 again, isn't he? See that? And he's chasing it. He's disconnected. He's running on
Fear.
Okay.
Fear and doubt.
Yeah, doubting. Yes, absolutely. Looking for security.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Ray.
Well, at that point, when I looked at these job offers, nobody could compete with the cost of living in Austin.
That's right.
They were both 2.5 times, maybe 3 times more expensive.
Austin's more expensive now, but it was real inexpensive then. Go ahead, Ray.
Right. I also got the urge at this time to start my own business. I thought, well, what if I just...
Second time around.
Right.
Okay, the first time was that little blip in the screen where he tried that for about 4 months in California, and here it is again.
And another thing that I didn't write down that I just remembered is that before I went from San Diego to Chicago, all of my clients in San Diego, my 200 clients, they all knew I was a recruiter before I worked for that company in San Diego. So whenever they wanted to hire somebody, they would call me. They would call me, and they knew I had a huge Rolodex.
Try to get the inside scoop.
Well, I had a huge Rolodex.
Right.
Remember, I knew everybody that I dealt with in the sales and marketing areas of these companies. So Ray, we need a regional manager in Atlanta. Who do you know? And I knew 5 people they could interview.
Oh wow!
And I just say, you need to talk to so and so, so and so, and so and so, and they hire them.
Right.
All right. So I still had all these contacts plus more. I thought maybe I should stay in Austin and start a recruiting firm. After all, I had thousands of contacts I had amassed at all my previous jobs. So I went out and did the only thing I could think of. I asked my friends what they thought.
What he should do.
What should I do?
Okay, disconnection.
Yeah.
That's when you're disconnected.
You know you're disconnected when you go out and you ask all your disconnected friends for their
Right.
advice.
Right. They don't know. What did they tell you to?
There they go.
Here's what they tell Ray.
They said not to start my own business. Take whichever job pays the most and is the most stable long term, which probably would have been the one in the East Coast, working for a Japanese company.
Got it.
Established. So, once again, I listened to my gut.
He reconnected with himself. What he did when he went out there and he asked all his friends what they would do, that could be a big mistake. But in Ray's case, what he did is he looked at that out there. He didn't embrace it. He didn't say, oh, I'm going to do that. He didn't panic. He might have been a little fearful, but he didn't panic, all right? So while all of these guys made their point about why he should do it, what a great idea it was, and why working for yourself is just the craziest thing that you could do. You're going to have to work all the time or whatever, Ray still listened to his gut. He still listened from that connected point of view, okay? He, again, like Toledo, when he was leaving, everybody was against him leaving. Everybody was against him working for himself.
Yeah, I wrote down some of the things they said. Oh, that's too expensive. Again, that's too expensive to move. Yeah, you can't move because that's too expensive.
We can't afford it.
Can't afford to move.
Right.
They said
so the same thing keeps showing up, right?
Trying to reinforce the doubt that you already had.
Right. And so here's my point. Ray in Toledo, when they had all these reasons why not, okay, and here in Texas, when they had all these reasons why not, what was going on in Ray, why did he attract that to himself? Because he still had a little bit of doubt inside him that he needed to be done with. Guidance, that's guidance too. When it puts that back in your path and you go, I remember this from before. You won't know it until you write it down and you can see it like Ray just did. Now he can really see it. But it comes back again just to test you, to make sure that you are fully functioning, healthy, connected, all right? It's just testing you, and that's what this was. This was the final test.
And looking back at their situations, they all had jobs. They worked for companies, growing, high-tech companies growing in Austin.
It had nothing to do with them.
No, it had nothing to do with them, but everything they said was probably valid. It takes a lot of money to start your own business. You're going to work yourself to death at first until you get it going. You're going to be in the black for a long time.
Okay.
Or in the red for a long time.
So these are all the reasons why you would reason yourself out of the guidance.
And I'm balancing that against, I got a family. All of a sudden I have no income.
And you've got a house payment.
Oh yeah, and 3 car payments.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, so much for listening to my friend's advice. I took everybody's advice in stride and started my own executive search firm.
And
all by myself.
All by himself, without any help, okay?
Did it take a lot of money to get it rolling? It took money to get it rolling. Did I work hard? I worked $75 to $100 a week by myself. And the first year, I tripled my income from working at Dell.
See, and to somebody from the outside looking in, it looks like a long shot. Like, oh my God, he took such a risk. It's not a risk. When you follow your guidance, that gut feeling, that knowingness, that connection, it's never a risk. It might look radical to the people around you. It did look radical to them, didn't it?
Yeah. Why do you want to sit in your spare bedroom,
What did they say to you?
80 hours
What did they say to you a year later?
Well, most of them hadn't seen me because I'm always working.
Well, true.
Ray, we thought you took one of those jobs, on the East Coast or in California.
So here's another thing about guidance and being connected and following that guidance. If you're afraid of work, then this guidance and this connection might feel like a huge burden to you. But the cost of not following it is a life of struggle. Okay, so you're still going to work really hard. You're just not going to see the benefits, and you won't have the magic in your life. All right?
Well, here's something I realized after that first year in business by myself, and how well I did. I realized that I should have lost my job a long time ago
Yeah, no kidding.
and started working for myself a long time ago because I had the same contact.
Okay, so here's the point. We always say to ourselves, I wish I would have gotten out of that marriage after you're out of it long before I did. Okay? We always look back and go, we should have, done something sooner. We should have, in hindsight, you'll always say that. Because once you get your confidence, once you follow that guidance and you see the benefits of it, in spite of all the reasons why not, what may appear to be obvious, why not? Okay, where you reason yourself right out of it, it's always harder when you resist the guidance. That's all I can tell you. You'll get where you're going eventually. It'll just take a lot longer. And in that span of time, it's a painful span of time because it's harder. Okay? We don't need to make it harder for ourselves, but we do need to trust ourselves. Because if you don't trust yourself, you won't have what it takes to follow that guidance. You'll pull back and go, oh, I don't think I can do that. You'll be running on fear, all right?
All right, here's an interesting thing that I thought of after I wrote this is, a note here, before I started my own company, I went around, the company I worked for in Toledo, company and San Diego were the same company, and they had an office in Austin.
Really?
A big one.
Oh.
One of the top producing ones in the world.
Okay.
Okay? So I went to go visit them. So the doubt still got a hold of me.
A little bit.
Right? Well, maybe these guys are right. Maybe it does take a lot of money and a lot of work. Maybe you should check out going to work, back to work for the company you worked for twice before. And they offered me a job. Well, the day I went in there, this is interesting. The day I went in there to talk to the owner, the CEO of the company that owned 500 offices was there. And he knew me. Ray! Because he remembered me from Toledo and San Diego.
Wow.
Oh, how are you? I hope you come to work here. Right. I didn't go to work there. I did start my own business. However, I met somebody who worked there in that office, and we became friends. And he ended up leaving the company and opening his own recruiting firm in Sedona, Arizona. He moved to Sedona. He and his wife always loved Sedona, so they moved there. He started his own company, like me, working by himself. And then one day, out of the blue, here we go again. It's the unexpected phone call.
You guys don't miss those moments. It's when you don't see it coming, when you didn't expect it. That's the magic moment.
So the reason
that's the connection, the guidance. That's your best choice.
So the reason I went into that office that day to look for a job, see if they could use me, where I could get a management job there, because they had like 30 or 40 people there.
You were really underestimating yourself, Ray.
There you go. Okay.
That's what doubt does. When doubt kicks in, you are willing to take so much less and discount yourself so much. All right. You're not supposed to do that, you guys. That's not living a connected life. All right, go ahead.
You see all these other things happen when you show up. The owner of that Austin office didn't know me, but the CEO of the corporation was there.
Yeah.
He knew me. Oh, this guy's great. You get what better recommendation could you get?
Continue.
So I meet this guy, Bob, and he moves to Sedona and opens his own recruiting firm and works for himself. One day, out of the blue, guess who calls me? Bob. Bob says, he told me he and his wife are going to move to Hawaii, and would I be interested in buying his house in Sedona?
Have you ever been to Sedona before?
A few times to visit him.
To visit him?
Yeah. I started visiting him in 1993.
93.
So
I was living in Sedona in 1993, you guys.
So
okay.
He was living there.
But I was married, okay.
So I started visiting Bob in Sedona in 1993. I don't know why. I just loved the place,
Yeah.
And I'd go there and stay at his house. Beautiful house, remodeled, on the creek in the woods, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, when he calls me up and says, hey, we're moving to Hawaii, would you like to buy our house? This was in 2000.
Right.
And I was heavy into the stock market at that time, professional trading.
I know you were.
9 years.
Yeah.
Um, and I said, don't talk to a real estate agent, don't talk to anybody, don't list it, I'll buy it. I cashed out 3 of my stock accounts and bought the house. And what, in less than a year?
No.
It was, yeah, the dot-com
The
crash
dot-com went down.
in less than a year.
It started going down in March of 2000.
Right.
No, it wasn't a year.
It wasn't even a year.
It was when you closed on his house. Do you remember when you closed on it?
Early in the year.
Okay. He missed the
By a month.
the dot-com crash by 1 month.
Right. And all those 3 accounts would have gotten wiped out.
Yeah, had he not pulled that money out and bought that house, he would have lost all that money.
All right. So,
very interesting. See this?
So as you see patterns continuing to play out,
Right.
Buying the Sedona home in the woods on a creek became my refuge from stress, because at that point I had like 8 people working for me in the business, and that was a lot of stress.
Ray was medically diagnosed with high blood pressure, and what was the other thing, Ray? Cholesterol.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cholesterol.
He had 2 things going against him. It was beginning to wear on him. All right. So Ray buys this house where he can, take that breather and gain get himself back, get his balance back. And he was guided to go that way, and he did. Keep going, Ray.
So I bought the house. That was my refuge to get away from the stress. I'd go out there and
For months at a time.
alone. And
I was still living in Sedona.
Right. So the stress of running my business back in Austin and the stress of my failing marriage at the time, it was just like my getaway.
Yeah.
And buying that home would be the precursor to meeting Linda Deir and living happily ever after.
So we meet in 2004.
Right.
Okay.
So I'd been there for 4 years. I never saw you.
I know.
Everybody knows everybody in Sedona. Everybody sees everybody at the store, at the
I know. It wasn't.
bank.
You guys, you can't chase a relationship. It wasn't. The timing wasn't right. He was married. I still needed some time to myself, really, after what I'd gone through in my marriage, and I got divorced in '98. So it was only a couple years out of that. I still needed some time, and the energies weren't aligned yet, So this is what it's like. People call it fate. They call it destiny. I call it guidance. I mean, it's the yellow brick road. It's the stepping stones. Had Ray missed one of these opportunities and got stuck in his life because he didn't follow the guidance, because he let doubt and fear control him, and then the result of that, the consequence of that is an immediate disconnection, okay? And he would have missed just one of those. Us getting together probably wouldn't have happened. So it had to be, I just have to say this because I really think it's true. I had a lot of offers and a lot of different things going on, and I just passed on all of them. I knew that wasn't right. I knew that wasn't right. I knew that wasn't right.
You felt it.
I did feel it, and I trusted it, and I didn't need to struggle in a relationship. And I told my guys, I said, if I meet the right one, give me a sign. Because I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to chase it. I'm not going to pick it. I'm not going to do that again. And that's how this all came about. I'm not going to go into the details of it.
The story is right there.
In the book, in Guided.
Part 4, my favorite part of the book.
But we've been together for 15 years now, you guys. I've never been with anybody, not to mention a marriage partner, a partner, just anybody that I've gotten along with and Ray's gotten along with like we do. We're with each other all the time.
24/7.
And there's no stress in this, So when it lands in your lap, guidance, when it just shows up, guidance put us together. And the first time I ran away, and the next time it showed up, Ray wouldn't let me run away. And it was just meant to be, and it just worked out, and it's worked out ever since. So when you follow the guidance, there's those opportunities where he could have got off track and disconnected and fallen into that doubt and that fear and let it control them. Whenever you do that, part 3 of my guided journey, you have to go in there and tell on yourself. You have to write in there where you're slipping, where you're not running strong, you're not running on your guidance, you're not connected, you don't feel strong, okay? You don't trust yourself. You don't trust something, okay? You've got to start writing those things down so you catch yourself before you do it again. I promise you, if you write these things down, you won't fall into it. You will have it here. You will take it out of here where it controls you, and you'll be able to see it on the pages and go, oh, I see how I could fall into that. I am not going to go down that road again. I'm not going to struggle and suffer and set me up for a lifetime of that. All right. So that's what this is all about. And I want to go back to chapter 7. Let me do this.
That's kind of everything I talked about is kind of in chapter 7.
It is in chapter 7. So when you sit down, what Ray did, I want you to know how he fleshed this out. I said, I need 2 questions from you, Ray. Just go write them. So he started writing them out, and I said, I listened to what he said, and I said, well, let me see. Where is this going to show up in my guided journey?
Page 45.
And here it is. I talked about it earlier. It's the one about, we always showed you new things. That's your guides. They always show you new things. That's what guidance is. That's what being connected is. You are being shown things. Now, you have to walk that way, okay? Because this is free will. Your whole life is a life of free will. But it is the guidance. There was no separation between you and us. Unlike those around you, you did not spend time overthinking things. That's because you were too busy experimenting with them. Like Ray walked through the mall and he felt that urge to open that bank account. They wouldn't have the money to move if he hadn't done that, okay? That just following it. Learning like you did was easy and fun. The natural flow that made learning on a higher level possible in the first place, okay? So it's a higher learning. It's a higher way of functioning. It's a higher way of living your life. It's where you honor who you are. And you'll know if you're having trouble moving on guidance, if you pull back, and you'll know just how much fear is running you, okay? But you won't know it until you write it down like what Ray did.
Yeah, you always talk, we always tell them all the time, you got to write it down.
You do.
You got to write it down. You got to write everything down. But it's easy to say, but until you go back and you look at a span of when I was in junior high, okay, I was, what, 7th grade? How old was I? Well, I was
12 or 13. 11, 12, 13,
12 years old. Yeah. Starting from the time I was 12 years old, everything connects.
It does.
I played in the surf band, had fantasies about living in California someday.
See, it all starts to light up, but you've got to write it down. I can't say it enough. As I moved through my life as a kid, and my life was in jeopardy throughout my childhood, and I couldn't talk to anybody about this guidance I was getting. I had no place to make sense of it until I wrote it down. And that's why the journaling it was life-saving to me, okay? And then it turned out to be, what it led me toward and the understandings I gained from it is what allowed me to have all the successes I've had in my life, knowing when to get in and out, continuing to follow the guidance, stay connected, okay?
I could have looked at all those jobs that I took that showed up, and didn't last very long. As, oh my God, this again?
Or oh my God, I made a terrible decision. And I failed. Now that is totally the wrong perception of the situation, okay?
When in fact, it was guidance pushing you out.
Right, it was, right?
You don't need to stay here anymore.
Game over. It's time out.
You were at the top of your real estate career when the guide said you need to stop.
Yeah, stop.
Right now.
Sell everything you have and don't buy any more new inventory.
Right, don't start any new project.
Okay, I didn't know even what was next, okay? I just had my plate full with everything I had to get out, all right, and get out on time before what they warned me was going to happen happened. Ray just missed all that because he didn't. I missed it too because I followed the guidance. I didn't. Everybody else was doing the opposite. Guess what happened to him? It was not pretty, okay? And they actually got mad at me because I followed the guidance. They asked me along the way, what am I doing? Why am I doing it? I said, because there's going to be a crash. And they laughed in my face, okay? I mean, he walked away from his family home, you know, for 30 years, and they all told him all the reasons why he shouldn't do it. When he was in Austin, he asked for their advice, and they gave him, the advice they gave him was the absolute opposite of what he finally decided to do based on the feeling, okay?
Yeah, I didn't know it was guidance and it was organized and it was planned out
Right.
until I met you, you know, and you taught me all this.
I know.
But I just thought, well, I got a gut feeling. I've always been a spiritual guy. That's probably why I didn't fit in the corporate world. But I didn't see it like it's laid out here. Everything is connected.
It totally is.
All the way back to the time I was in junior high.
And before.
And before.
Okay, so what we're talking about here is this whole thing has been mapped out. You just, by living your life, if you're conscious, I want to say being connected is being conscious. It's being aware, and it's not being afraid. There were times when Ray was a little afraid, okay? But his truth always won out. That feeling and that urge always won out. That's why I'm with him. I couldn't have been with somebody who doesn't get it, who keeps missing it, who keeps doubting themselves. I couldn't even be with that person. And you will find that when you follow your guidance and you're strong and you believe in yourself and your life is working out, you will attract the same people to you.
And the doubt is something that's always there, whether it's people giving you twinges of
Most of this world is filled with doubt. Most people will throw doubt at you
before you make the decision. But there's doubt that creeps in after you make the decision, even though it felt right. I mean, when I opened my business,
Yeah.
I did it take a lot of money to start? Yeah, it did. I had to buy all new computers and fax machines and telephone systems and all this stuff, and a copier. And the first week I was in business, it was one of those Texas frog strangler storms with a lot of lightning, and it fried everything right down the line and ruined it all.
Well, that tested you one more time.
I'm going, wow, I got to go out and buy all this again.
Did you question that maybe?
Maybe I made a bad decision.
Did you, Ray?
Yeah, probably.
How long did it last?
Till I got the first big checks coming in. Yeah.
Until you saw the fruits of your labor,
Right.
and then you had the money to redo all that.
Oh, I had to dip into my savings, you know, to redo all
Let's
that.
ask the guides why that happened. Let's see what, because that could have been a deal killer for you right there, right?
Could have.
Let's see what they have to say about that one incident.
It was a test of your resolve, something that you must have in order to run a business and have people working for you. There's always going to be the unexpected occurrence to test you.
So you passed the test.
I did. I went out and built a new office.
You guys, this is what it's all about. We're going to be back next week right here. Join us Wednesday right here on my Facebook page, 6 p.m. Pacific time. Linda Deir, author. As your spirit guides and I walk you through this healing process of taking the journey and getting your life back and not making the connection, but keeping it. I know that you're all connected, and I know that you are connected. You may not know it all the time. It still may feel sporadic, but it's not sporadic. It's happening all the time.
You came in with it when you came in as a new person, a baby, and
You're getting your original equipment and
Right.
software,
installed
right,
at the factory.
and now you're bringing it back to life. Okay, now
That's the beauty. You don't have to learn anything.
that's right.
You only have to remember it.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. We'll see you guys next week.
And Tuesday, too.
And Tuesday,
If
we're
you want
here.
to join us
we're-
on Tuesday.
We're here on Tuesdays
Talking about Linda's Weekly Guided
at
Insights.
6 p.m. Pacific. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
Okay, everybody.
All right, you guys, good night.
Be kind.